Hey, how's it going, guys? This is your boy Hazzed, and today we're going to be discussing Frost DK stat priority for the Breath Spec in 7.1.5. You guys have been absolutely hounding me to figure this out, so I decided to sit down and take some time this morning, run a ton of tests, and then come up with, of course, whatever it is I got. So anyways, let's jump into this, guys.
It's who we are, it's what we do, we've come so far, and now we pay the price, so don't even cry. The world is breaking down, and I cannot leave the ground.
So to understand how I kind of ran these tests, you guys kind of have an idea how I went about doing this. Of course, I've got what is known as main and alt trinkets. Of course, I've got kind of the trinkets I wear for either item level PvP or for just kind of being kind of flashy. Now, of course, I've got the alt trinkets in my inventory, which either masked haste or crit. I don't have one for mastery at the moment, but I did have somebody run the test for me, and it actually came out to be a pretty solid conclusion on this. And I could tell just by looking at what I was seeing based on which one of these stats was definitely taking the cake for overall DPS. And I could tell from previous 7.1, of course, the stat priority in 7.1 was haste over crit over mastery, and the reason being is with the consistency spec you had to keep a current rotation and actually reduce the cooldown timer on your cooldown, so you wanted to have a full rotation. You wanted to be basically hitting buttons at all times to actually complete that rotation and kind of keep it in a machine motion of keep it going. Well, of course, here with the breath spec, we don't need to be doing that. Truth be told, some of the ways that we're actually specking doesn't really require much haste at all, absolutely much haste at all, because of course we got Gathering Storms, which means you dump as much runes into Gathering Storms as much as possible, and we got Frozen Pulse, so it makes it, when you are rune starved, you're still benefiting quite a lot from it, especially during major cooldowns if you're able to rune starve yourself for a short amount of time. So Frozen Pulse activates with breath going off. Of course, you just sent out those obliterates, you got dots ticking on the target, and when that little Frozen Pulse ticks in, it's absolutely insane if you can get it to cap correctly. So you do want to try and benefit that for as much as possible. Try not to clump as many runes as you can together, but I mean, of course, you got to maximize that Gathering Storms to also make it kind of complete. So yeah, moving on from that section of it, what I've kind of found out for 7.1.5 stats on the Frost Breath. I've run numerous tests, just tons of tests running Breath over and over again with, of course, using the different stats, changing out my stats, and of course I got this trinket here, which is Nature's Call. The nice thing about Nature's Call is the effectability on it has a chance to randomly proc, of course, off stats, and one of them happens to be Mastery, so that's the other way I got in a nice little test on that. But what I found out, of course, we got crit, the highest DPS stat for the previous patch, and this patch is going to be crit. Now you're thinking, wasn't haste highest last patch? You literally just said it. Haste was to complete the rotation to give you the highest consistency DPS. Crit has the highest raw DPS value when it comes to any stat out there, because when it comes to just raw DPS, haste is only about 1.0, which is about equal to mastery in the previous expansion, but because of the actual mechanical benefit, haste was stronger. Now in 7.1.5, we don't need that haste because of course we're dumping out all our runes. That's going to make crit absolutely amazing, absolutely powerful. Switching out a haste trinket with a crit trinket actually buffed up my DPS on a regular basis by almost 100k, which 100k is a huge gap. I believe it's definitely more than 1.3 on the DPS scale as of currently, since we don't seem to benefit nearly as much from it, and it was just making me do insane DPS compared to what I was doing before with the other spec. I mean, as for the downs, like even the downs of using crit over haste was still almost greater than the highs that I got with haste. Now a couple procs procced pretty high, of course, but it was still nowhere near as high as I could do with just stacking on the crit. Now as far as stat priority, it's gonna go crit, mastery, haste. Haste is not really high on our priority list. Now would I say, where's versatility? Versatility is kind of an interesting stat. And truth be told, If I were to toss versatility in that list, I'd probably toss it in just after mastery, because haste is really not that important. We're probably only going to need 15% to maybe 20% haste to actually benefit fully from the stat. After that, you're probably even killing your DPS by generating too much runes and not getting in the full rotation, which is kind of an odd concept. Yeah, it's weird. It's one of the other reasons that people that are using like the legendary belt are actually going from frozen pulse to freezing fog, because they don't have as much downtime, so they'll generate, of course, more DPS from freezing fog. Now, of course, if you have a massive amount of haste, let's say like 25-26%, I can imagine this kind of spec is going to act kind of weird for you. It's not going to actually rotate correctly. You're going to have kind of weak DPS. You're not going to have nearly enough crit, and of course, you're not going to have nearly enough mastery. Now, how much crit do you want? I don't think it really matters when it comes to stacking crit, but I would say probably put it around maybe 25, maybe close to 27-28%, and then start stacking as much mastery as possible. Like, you could go 40% plus mastery and still be fine with this spec. Absolutely insane spec for stacking mastery, as we all currently know. So we're going to be crit, mastery, and then we're going to be going with the probably haste over versatility. I'd got to say that's going to be our breath spec stats for 7.1.5. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys can go out and test these out yourself. Let me know what you think. If you have trinkets to switch around like that, this is the reason why, of course, I keep alternate gear and alternate trinkets, so I can switch them out. I can test and figure out what's going on, of course, with the new patches or expansions for you guys. So leave a like on this video, and until next time, this was your boy Hazzed.
The edge of the hellfire.